FunPop. 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 Hey everybody, how's it going? This is FunPop, episode number 3. Yes, that's it. Episode number 3. That is 3 a lucky number? No, 7 is. I don't know. I think to some people 3 is a lucky number. But hey, we're gonna have a fun show today. We have 2 special guests. One of them is a big part of this channel over with our Xbox Ultimate. He hopped in here last minute because 3-bit he's busy with work meetings right now. He's a multi-talented, faceted businessman that's always doing different things. So unfortunately, he's not able to be in here right now. We also have another special guest that's been a huge part of this community for a long time and has been very supportive and helpful to me at times, helping me figure some stuff out with settings and overlays and just whatever, trying to help me with OBS. He's a mastermind of all this stuff. So first, I'm going to introduce him. I think you all know him, and I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Paul, and Twitch streamer, Xbox ambassador extraordinaire. What's up, dude?
Oh, not much. Just hanging out this Sunday. Looking forward to some good discussion, even with Pong down there. You know,
Even with
Feelings mutual, Paul. Feelings mutual.
I'm sorry. Did he say something I haven't?
Yeah. You know, we were late getting started because it got a little heated here. You know, Pong hopped in and then Paul was like, "Hey, you know, I don't know if I can do this now. You know, what are we doing here? I didn't agree to this. I think I need to step out right now." No, they love each other. I think. We also have my man from Xbox Ultimate Podcast, and he is super awesome and always supportive, and we just love freaking playing games together too. I think we have a lot of the same taste, even though I'd say 90% of the games he's better than me at, and I think the one game I got on him is Halo, but I'll take it. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to this X-Men lover from back in the day, Pong Soul. What's up, dude?
Afternoon, everyone. It is a Sunday. I was not planning on being here, but you know, surprise, surprise. I was just got home and Mav said, "Look at your DMs." So that's what I did. So awesome to be here, Mav. Always love being on the show, even if you have Paul on here, you know, that's fine. I'll just ignore him. That's cool. But no, awesome to be on here. You know, obviously with 3-bit slacking and not having his priorities straight, you know, somebody's got to step up. So here I am. But
hey, you were the 5th person we DM'd, dude.
I'm sure I was down on the list, but you know what? All that matters is I'm here and I'm showing up. So it's great to be here with Mav and Psycho and Paul. I can't wait to talk a little bit of X-Men, a little bit out of my realm, but I was, and I guess still am, a huge X-Men fan, and was a big comic book collector at one point in my life. So I guess I can kind of fit in here. So let's do this.
Yeah, man. We've had some discussions while we're playing the Division about some of this stuff. I think you got some good things to say. I actually thought about you specifically with a topic for this week because there was a little bit of news that is maybe news, it's maybe speculation, it's a rumor that circulated around the interwebs. But before we get to that, we have one of our panel members here today who, hey, surprise, surprise, you may see him later this week as well, make an appearance, and maybe not just one. But we'll get into that later. My man, Psychonauts, what's up, dude? How are you doing? Thanks for joining us as always on the FunPop podcast. I know you got a lot to say about WandaVision and what we saw on that season finale. So how's it going, man?
I'm doing good. It's great. It's an awesome Sunday. Can't wait. It's always a pleasure to be here. Chat, let's get this started and dive into some great topics.
I love Psycho. He always sounds so high energy.
Yeah, no, he's just like that. He's just man. Psychonauts
I know.
is mellow, and he's
I'm
got
ex-
that deep mellow voice. You know.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
I'm
Psycho,
Yeah.
Psycho,
I'm
I didn't recognize your voice. Can you start eating something, please? Because that's the only way I recognize
No, he has the bag of chips right there ready
Yeah,
to
I'm
go.
sure.
I
I'm
got
sure.
I got the snacks ready, so
Right on.
Yeah.
I'm just a mellow dude, so just chill.
He's that mellow kind of psycho.
Yeah, I'm that mellow psycho.
You're that guy where they go, he was so quiet, he was a good neighbor. Never mind the 5 bodies you
Exactly.
found in his basement. He was a shy guy.
They didn't find those until after he left.
Yeah, it's after I moved out.
So, this podcast, guys, is more a little bit more chill, like Psycho, a little bit more relaxed. We're gonna we have only a couple topics to discuss, and we're gonna we can go deep. We can go deep into history. We can sidetrack. Who knows what's gonna happen? But I want to start first with something that I saw that got me super excited. And that was it's not really an announcement because it's not official release from Marvel, but there was around the internet a huge report that started from the Illuminati, and that is that there is indeed an X-Men film right now in the works, and it's called The Mutants. So this sounds very promising to me. As Sakunas and me were talking before the show started about maybe that name has a actual paying homage to the creator as well. So we knew about the Fantastic Four was announced. We knew about all this timeline of the next phase that was announced, and I was thinking personally, man, the thing I'm excited most about the merger with Fox and Marvel was Marvel getting the rights to the X-Men. And then when they announced the next phase, it was like, holy crap, am I going to have to wait that long to get a freaking new X-Men movie that's from the MCU? Like, I want to see the new Wolverine. I want to see I want to see Gambit make an appearance. I want to see them do it right. Because I freaking love X-Men. That was my entry into Marvel as a kid. That was my thing that I loved the most. And we got this news now that they already have a title, and I'm thinking they're gonna stick this baby in somewhere that we don't know about. I don't think we're gonna have to wait as long as we thought if this is making the rounds right now. We'll see. I'm very hopeful about that. But yeah, again, the movie will be called The Mutants. They already had announced Deadpool 3, which is technically a mutants movie, right? We also have, Scarlet Witch has ties to that world as well. So there's a lot of interesting things that could be going on here. Do you guys think we're going to see this like in the next couple years? Or do you think we're going to have to wait for a really long time?
No,
Well,
I think we're gonna see that soon.
Yeah. Go ahead, Psycho.
No, I was gonna say I think we're gonna see it probably in 2023 is like early 2023. I think is what we're probably gonna see this movie come out because they already got 2021 and 2022 kind of like already set up. So I think they're gonna fit this in about at the beginning timeline of 2023.
The 2 years from now?
Yeah,
I can wait that long.
If they're starting, if it's in the works, it takes about 2 years, maybe 3 years to go through, shoot all the shots, all the scenes, and then edit and then put it out. So I think could it be late 2022? But I'm thinking about 2023 just to give it some, make sure, edit everything and everything works out fine and fit it into the timeline how they want.
I would think personally that it may be a little later than that, like 2024, because there's not even an IMDb entry, and those movies take a lot as far as post production for effects and stuff. That alone eats up a lot of their production time nowadays, more so than the principal shooting and all that.
Now you're crushing my dreams, Paul.
I'm just saying the way things work.
I no, I get what you're saying. So when did this Marvel and Fox merger actually go down? It was it a year ago or
Yeah, I think it was about
right.
a year ago.
So for me, like that's the first thing they would have done because that's the one of the main purposes of it, for the MCU from their standpoint anyway, is to get X-Men, right? And as soon as that happened, I mean, we already saw Fantastic Four was immediately put into there, and that was part of the Fox lineup, right? So let's say, how long does it take to make one of these movies? You think maybe 3 years?
Yeah,
So
2-3 years.
Yeah,
what I
about that.
think.
So
That's pre-COVID too. So we
Right.
still got to
Right.
count this in. I mean, things are
Yeah.
slowly kind of coming back, but I mean, again,
yeah,
it's
Black
still a
Widow was
challenge.
delayed a year, pretty much,
Yeah,
right?
it's still a challenge right now, especially getting everybody together, and they're going to have to cast, and they're going to have to. It's gonna be tough. I'd lean more towards Paul's estimate of 2024. I think, yeah, especially if it's gonna be a full reboot. Okay, look, we can get into this more, but obviously my stance, Mav, as far as what they've done to X-Men. And if Feige and company are going to do this right, they know that there's been so many missed opportunities already with X-Men that if they're going to take the same careful approach that they did with Avengers to craft, this universe and to make it a beloved franchise, I think they're going to take their time with this. I don't think they're going to rush it. I think they're going to make everything. They're going to make sure that everything is spot on with where they want to take this and how it's going to, add to the MCU universe. So I think this might take a little bit longer to get done than it normally would if it was already like an established, franchise, or if they had some really good material to work with, from before, which obviously I don't believe they do. But I think that might have sped it up. But I think they're gonna do it right, or at least try to make it right this time around. So I think it might be a lot longer than we would all like, right? So I think we definitely are looking at 2024.
2024.
Well, because we haven't seen anything about a screenplay, anything about scripts. None of that is there, and usually IMDb, that stuff is kept pretty up to date as far as that goes.
So here's what I'm thinking. Okay, second ask, when is the Deadpool 3 movie slated for?
You mean Deadpool, not
The
Dread?
Deadpool, yeah, sorry. I'm thinking, sorry, the Dread.
Boy, Dread's moving up in the world.
Hey,
Holy cow.
Hey, shout out to our friend. Shout out to our friend Dreadpool. I guess you got in my head somehow, man, because that was great.
movie. Holy cow, that's all the beer.
Bread with Dread.
Shout out to Breaking Bread with Dread and Dreadpool out there. I keep saying Dreadpool. Yeah, he's like changed the word in my head now forever, I think. Okay, Deadpool. So when was Deadpool 3 slated for on that timeline? Did they make an announcement on that yet, Second Odds?
Yeah, Deadpool 3 was, I believe, late 21, early 22, I believe it was.
Okay. And Deadpool 3 they said is joining the MCU. Like that Deadpool is joining the MCU, right? Or is it going to be still a standalone product?
No, I think with the Mutants, they could possibly do 2 separate timelines. They could do the mutant timeline. They could do with the multiverse timeline with what's the events with WandaVision and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man 3, and then somehow weave it together with certain movies, tie it, and then so it starts off 2 separate sagas, maybe connect somewhere with the movie, separate again, and then like come to an arch, to like a finale, like an arc of you got mutants and whatever the events with the multiverse merging at
Right.
the end,
So
or whatever.
Deadpool to me has a lot of ramifications here because you're taking an existing character with an existing popular movie franchise, right? With the existing actor, everything. And then you're taking that and you're bringing it into the MCU. I'm looking at the article and they say that it is part of the MCU, and the MCU, everything is tied together. So they have to figure out a way to make that work with those movies, I would think, unless they have a way of cutting it off and the Deadpool enters a new reality or something. Who knows exactly how they're going to make it work? But the other thing about Deadpool is it's so like self-aware, those movies, with like being like a movie when you watch it, because he like talks to the camera and stuff like that. Like they could play with it and do whatever, like, and make a joke about it, like he's done before, as acknowledging himself as Green Lantern, in the movies, right? So they've done interesting things like that before. So they could do some fun twist in Deadpool to like insert him into the MCU just in a joking way, right? To kind of rectify that. But when Deadpool comes out, mutants exist in the MCU.
Well, here's the other thing. Deadpool is tied to the Xavier School. Remember, because he worked with the lesser characters, as he called them in his movie.
Yeah,
the
100%.
real-name
Yeah,
guys.
Colossus.
So he could be the bridge between bringing the mutants into the Avenger universe.
The other thing is that Cable stayed on Earth, right? Stayed in that timeline,
Right.
and like maybe he can mess with the time because he's a time traveler, right? So
The biggest concern with Deadpool, I almost did it. The biggest concern with
Yeah.
Deadpool has been the risque nature and the language.
yeah. Well, they said it's going to be the first R-rated movie in the MCU.
Yeah.
Which is
So,
good.
Yeah, that
Thank
is
God.
good.
That gives me hope.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
But
not
then they said
scared,
Blade
right?
was going to be PG-13 potentially.
Which totally,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
good luck with that. Good luck.
How do you do a
I don't know how you do that.
vampire movie?
You-
Make it
you don't.
PG-13?
Nope, you can't.
That's
Yeah. I do like the actor they cast for Blade, though. I think that was a good casting
Yeah.
as well.
That
So
was a great casting.
Yeah.
the one thing MCU's gotten right more 90% of the time is the casting. They've replaced a couple, that didn't work out, mainly for other reasons, but for the most part, like the actors and stuff they cast, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. You know what I mean? I thought Tom Holland is like an amazing Spider-Man. You have
Tom Holland was good because he played more of the kid side.
exactly.
He
Yeah.
wasn't already so grown up, which he shouldn't have been if you look at the old Spider-Man.
Exactly, 100%. And you have a chance to grow with the character,
Right.
on the other side, Fox with those X-Men movies and stuff, like they did a good job with some of the casting of the characters, but they just did a horrible job with the stories, like with the connecting the dots and storylines and all that stuff. But this is the chance, I think, to get that right, to have a connected storyline that makes sense, where things have ramifications, where something that happens in one movie actually affects the other one. You know what I mean?
The only downside they may have as far as casting goes is now whenever anybody thinks of X-Men, they think of Hugh Jackman as
Yeah.
Wolverine. They think of what's his name is as Professor X.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna have to recast all that. Those guys are getting too well, except maybe Professor X, because Bald is bald. He could sit in a chair all day and
Yeah.
fine with that. But
Yeah.
Did y'all
Yeah,
like James
that's
McAvoy
fine though.
as Professor X? How do y'all think he did? I mean, Sir Patrick Stewart was Professor X. I mean, that was like perfect as far as the character goes. But James McAvoy was like kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like I like how I like his acting, but it just didn't. The character
Again,
didn't just sing
That's
like,
because Patrick Stewart gave you an expectation.
yeah, maybe.
It's
Yeah.
it's tough because we are so used to Professor X, at least us older X-Men fans,
Yeah.
as an older guy, right? We
Right.
always knew him for the most part in the
Mhm.
comics as already the elder statesman, the guy, and so to see him younger, is different. So I don't know if anybody else would have done any better with it, because I really think that he did a great job
Yeah.
with the role as a younger Professor X. A lot of the scenes with him and Magneto were simply fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
they pulled off
Michael
what that
Fassbender was
relationship was
amazing
like.
in that series.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's
Yeah.
you already talked about that. My dislike for the movies is is up there, but the casting, you and I talked about
Yeah.
that. They did a lot of the casting right. They got a lot wrong, but the ones that they did hit were spot on. And
Yeah.
Fassbender was amazing.
It just was weird, I
Amazing.
think, with the newer X-Men movies that they made, going so young with the actors kind of like
Yes.
was a strange move because they were brought into the current timelines. And when you saw like this young this young Jean Grey become the Phoenix and that one, that was kind of like, we've already saw her do this in another movie where she was a lot older, like and it happened in a different way. What the hell's
And no
going
offense,
on
but a much
here?
better actor.
Yeah, they totally destroyed
Yeah.
the whole
as well.
Dark Phoenix saga. That was so poorly done. Oh my god.
That casting was awful. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't I thought the young
Dark
Cyclops
Phoenix
was okay, but like he's just too young. He looks like a teenager, you know what I mean? Like Cyclops was one of the older ones. He was one of like the more experienced guys,
Correct.
And nobody, Wolverine will always be Hugh Jackman in people's
Yeah,
minds.
that's gonna be hard to beat.
Right.
And just like what's his name is I'm sorry, I'm not a the guy who played Frazier was the big blue the Beast.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna be hard to replace too because his voice is so distinct.
Yeah, well, they already replaced him and with other actor, and Nicholas Holt did it. I think it was Nicholas Holt. Is that his name?
Yeah.
He did a good job.
He did a good job,
but
still in my
Kelsey
head,
Grammer
it's always gonna be
was
Kelsey Grammer.
awesome as because
Yeah.
to me, like the original
Which is
casting.
crazy to
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%, dude.
Would you ever think like 15 years ago if you said, "Hey, Fraser Crane's going to be the Beast of X-Men"?
And the
Yeah.
scrambled
Like, what?
eggs.
What?
Yeah,
Like, really? And now they're
100%.
bringing back Frazier.
Yep. Now they're bringing back Fraser. I can't wait.
If Nicholas
God.
Holt plays Frazier, that'd be amazing.
That'd be a great gag. That'd be a great gag for the gag reel.
Yeah. Now, how do they work out so with Wolverine though? You know what I mean? So that's going to be the biggest casting news when it hits, as far as who is Wolverine.
They would have to get somebody that's not as famous.
Yeah.
To do the role, and then
Robert Pattinson as Wolverine.
Oh no!
Stop.
No.
God, why did you invite me on here?
He's a great
You said
actor.
we were
I'm
going
just
to talk
kidding.
like about where X-Men could
He's
go,
Batman.
not
He's
like
Batman.
going backwards.
No, I know.
Hey Pong, I think we need to go to another podcast like right now.
I know.
All right.
I
I'm
agree-
excited
I-
for him as Batman. I'm just saying. I think
I
he'll
agree
do a
with
good job.
Psycho. I agree with Psycho that they probably can't go with somebody as famous to do Wolverine, but they are going to have to find somebody who is young or younger, I guess, maybe a little bit, maybe not. Maybe you go. It just depends what timeline they're going to put him in, right? So
Yeah.
I think this has got to be young X-Men, because how are they gonna this world that has existed? All of a sudden, there's mutants. You know what I mean?
This is going to be my problem. Yes, I know, and this is where I'm scared a little bit, but we'll see how it turns out. But I think whoever that they cast is going to have to be somebody with an extremely strong, and this might be obvious, but you have to have a strong screen presence, right? It's going to have to be somebody that dominates, because Wolverine, whenever he showed up in the comics, dominated, right? And so, and Hugh Jackman, was that.
Right.
Every scene he was in, it was Hugh, and he's got that intensity about him that was essential to Wolverine. And so they're going to have to find somebody, maybe less famous, but somebody who can hold that type of, or control each scene that he's in. And that's going to be a tough get.
At the same time, I don't want somebody who's just going to mimic what Hugh Jackman did.
No.
Yeah,
I don't want that either.
That's my biggest thing is what they fall into. We need another Hugh Jackman. No, you don't. Don't do that.
No.
So
I think what they were going to do with, at least with Wolverine, is that whoever they do find and whoever they bring in, he's going to have a strong presence on screen. But I think that with Wolverine, they have to go with the classic outfit, and that will people will overlook who they have playing the character because they got the classic Wolverine outfit. I think that will play.
Agree, Psycho.
It will help whoever they get.
Yeah, no, they should just go. If they just go the uncanny X-Men, everybody will forget everything. Okay, so all the original fans will forget everything. You bring in the uncanny style of X-Men, and it doesn't matter who they put in those outfits. It'll be a whole new brand. I mean, it'll be perfect.
It's kind of the same what they did with Spider-Man. I mean, all of us knew Tom Holland was the third reboot in like a decade,
right?
And now he is Spider-Man. We don't care about those other guys who played Spider-Man previously. Well, they weren't that good.
But
Tom Holland
I do.
is.
But that's okay.
Well,
but those three are going to be.
Yeah, you don't matter. So, yeah,
you don't matter.
It don't matter. Yeah, I know.
Well, and I mean, let's forget that piece of shit that was Spider-Man 2, where they basically mirrored the comics page for page, the whole, Saturday Night Fever dancing in the bar. I remember reading that thing, and it was shit back in the 80s. Okay, it was.
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah. Oh, it was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That movie mirrored that comic book.
That movie was a little cringy.
It was awful.
It was a little cringy at that point when he was trying to I'm dark, so I'm gonna act like
So that was Spider-Man 3,
cool.
the one that y'all are talking about. Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2 was actually really good. That was the one with Doc Ock. Spider-Man 3 was the one that was like you got weird emo Peter, that was kind of like just like you can even just look at the stills and it just looks ridiculous. You know what I mean?
That was campy. That was campy Spider-Man.
That's why I'm worried about Batman too.
Yeah.
No, dude.
I hate
we're getting emo Batman.
No,
dude.
we're not, dude. Watch watch the Legend of Z. I think that's the name of it.
If Batman sparkles one time, I swear to God, I'm gonna.
Everybody thinks of Robert Pattinson as Edward from Twilight, but he's done some other things since then that are great. They're really good stuff. The Lost City.
He has. I'm not doubting him.
Lost City.
He'll have the brooding part down. He'll have the brooding.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying that he's a bad actor. I'm just saying from what I saw, we're getting sad, mopey, emo.
Yeah,
Batman.
we're getting broody.
From the
emo
trailer.
Batman.
We're getting broody.
Yes.
We're getting broody.
Oh man, that trailer! That trailer for Batman, the Batman
was well done.
It looks like the best thing I've ever seen for Batman. I just freaking loved it.
Oh,
dude, I was so excited.
We got to find a new podcast.
No, dude, I am so when they revealed that at the DC event, that was like insane. I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I've always wanted. You get like Detective Batman showing up to the crime scene and stuff. You got.
That's okay. You know what made the trailer though was that they actually went and got a Nirvana song, and that's why it also scares me. But something in the way, I mean, I can't believe they even pulled that one out. That's like one of my favorite Nirvana songs, but it's not anybody you ask. It's barely makes people's list because people forget about it. But oh my god, it fit the mood of that trailer completely, and that's why I'm scared because it looks like we're getting that broody. Oh, Batman emo. I'm gonna cry at any moment.
I think it's gonna be
my life sucks.
It's gonna be a dark take on Batman, but I don't think you're gonna get like necessarily emo Batman. We'll see. I think
we'll see.
I feel bad for him because he's got to follow after Christian Bale. I'm not even going to talk about that.
And Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck actually does a good job, but he doesn't have enough of a camera
Right.
He doesn't have enough camera time to be the character,
Right.
you know?
He really didn't make they didn't make a Ben Affleck Batman movie to make you really, see
Right.
Well, there's rumor they're supposed to. So
Yeah.
Well, I
it's gonna
thought
be
he dropped
weird.
out of that. I thought he dropped out of that.
No, they when this with the Zack Snyder cut that's coming out in a
Oh
couple
yeah,
weeks,
yeah.
he he's retaking the role, but in Zack Snyder universe. So it's like
Yeah.
in that's the problem with the DC universe. You got all these different movies are not
Not connected.
you know, they're not. Yeah, exactly. So
Let's see. I can deal with that because I'm so used to the DC multiverse thing that it doesn't even.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of the DC guy like. And you see, like on my wall, I'm a big Batman guy. Like I
Yeah,
love
maybe.
Batman. I was never the person that was super into the comics like you guys were, right? But my love for Batman and stuff comes from all the cartoons, like when I was a kid watching the cartoons, and then also the movies, like the Michael Keaton movies, the even like everything I've ever
Oh, if
seen,
you
I just
mentioned
love.
Batman and Robin or Batman, then we're gonna have
I
a
mean,
problem.
I even
would-
like I like. I mean, I'm not saying these are like by any means my favorite Batman movies whatsoever, but I even like the Val Kilmer one. I liked the George Clooney one. I liked everything Batman I've ever seen. I just freaking love.
You like
I
the
just love
Batman suit with the tits?
not my favorite suit, no. But I was huge into Batman toys when I was a kid. You know, I had the Batmobile. I had like a bunch of different Batman. You know, but the cartoons from the '90s.
Oh yeah.
And then
that stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
Those are throwbacks to the old school cartoons.
yeah, I just love Batman. I just was never a comic book guy. So when you guys talk about the uncanny X-Men, for me, X-Men is the '90s cartoon, right?
At one point, I had Detective Comics number 12 was in my collection.
Oh, really? Wow.
1940.
See, that's amazing. Like,
what were you like 20?
Yeah, yeah. I got it fresh off the
at 20
shelf.
years old.
Bob Kane signed it for me right there. It was cool. It was
Nice. Straight off the press.
Yeah, I just another thing I love about Batman is so many different takes on the character at this point. You know, so you have like a bunch of different versions of Batman right at this point because I think he's been the most reprised role in comic movies. You know, like there's so many different versions and that's the good thing, like you guys say about DC. Maybe everything doesn't have to be tied together, right? Maybe you can have just a bunch of random standalone things because that's the way the comics kind of are as well.
like the
right?
Joker movie, the most recent Joker movie. At first, when I saw it, I thought, I'm not going to like this. Then I saw the movie and went, this actually wasn't too bad, you know. But I had to divorce it from what I know of the Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love all of those movies and I enjoy all of them, right? You know, even the bad ones. I just enjoy them for the entertainment value. I like it. I just geek out over this stuff. But I do personally prefer the MCU method of having this one big shared universe, just because if something happens in something, it has ramifications on everything else, and it makes me care about what I'm watching more. Like WandaVision, which we're going to get into later, everything that happened in a TV show, right, now has ramifications on potentially the mutant stuff that we're talking about. It has potentially ramifications on everything, and my mind's going all these different places. Like, what does this mean? You know? Whereas like the DC stuff, even though it's amazing for what it is, I don't have necessarily those thoughts because it's just going to be this isolated experience for the most part. I think they've tried to do the MCU thing, but they didn't plan it properly, right? They just kind of like, hey, we're going to wing it. And then it didn't work. And they kind of went that X-Men approach. X-Men, what Pong is talking about, how they screwed up the timelines there, they kind of tried to do what they were doing with the MCU, with have this like timeline that was progressing and stuff. It just went all over the place, right? It just went everywhere that didn't coordinate, didn't make sense. So as far as the MCU getting X-Men, I think this is the best thing for that, because to me, X-Men is something that needs that progressive timeline, because you have so many different characters. Like, if you think about Marvel and the MCU and all of these characters that they already have, once you throw the mutants into it and that whole X-Men universe, how many freaking characters is there? There are so many, and the Marvel movies are not afraid to make a secondary character the main focal point of a movie, right?
But
And
correct me if I'm wrong, though. In the comic books, the mutant side and the MCU side are separate, correct?
yes,
The X-Men never cross paths with the Avengers. They're two totally separate.
right, yeah. So this is different. This is, the MCU is its own shared world where the comic books don't necessarily reflect what's happening in the movies, but with the MCU, everything that happens within that has
Well, but what I'm
that's why
saying
it's
is
called the
that
cinematic universe.
yeah, they've never intermingled those characters before.
Right, but they do take a lot from the comics to create the stories, right? So they'll take a lot of inspiration, but they create their own stories as well. Kind of think
And
of
the
The Walking Dead, what they did with the comic versus what's on the show, right?
Yep. Oh yeah. Or then like I was talking to you about earlier, it kind of in a way it hamstrung the writers for the MCU for the
Yeah.
cinematic universe. There are a lot of comic book stories they can no longer touch on, or even that are great stories that would make great movies, but because they're part of this joint universe, they can't do them.
Right.
At least
Well, they
not
could do a
without breaking their own
multiverse.
timeline.
But that's
Yeah,
what
but they could do a multiverse version.
Yeah. But see, if you start getting in the multiverse, then you're kind of throwing out the whole thing anyway.
right. Then you're going to
Well,
DC. So
Yeah.
there's
Well,
pluses
we're
and
getting into
minuses
the
to both.
multiverse.
Right.
So
There's
What's the
pluses.
focus
There's
of going-
pluses and minuses to everything, right?
Right.
Like, so for me, just the pluses outweigh that with the MCU.
The problem is, like you said, there are so many characters now, though they're going to need to be careful how much they try to bring together, because it can become overwhelming to where it's just a superhero on the screen every 3 seconds. After a while, you just
Mhm.
don't care.
Right.
It's
Well-
just going to be action scene, action scene, action scene.
Yeah.
You know.
But also going that route led to one of the best cinematic experiences in Endgame for me. Just
Well,
seeing
yeah,
all that.
but that was built up over what, 6 movies, 7 movies?
Yeah, even more, I
Well,
think. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the
beginning of-
benefit.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Psycho?
No, I was just saying they built it up for pretty much from the start of Captain America, the
Right.
first Avenger, and then from there on they brought 4 phases into what we have now as Endgame, and now they're gonna go, with the multiverse with the next phase, and who the villain could be, we don't know.
Right.
They could it be Nightmare? Could it be um, Mephisto? Who knows where they can go? They can go anywhere pretty much, because that whole multiverse, you got all these different worlds that they can pretty much pull. They pick and choose who they want. I mean, even with the WandaVision, with the, what is it, the Book of Darkness, was it?
At the end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That could be her.
so-
She could be the big villain now.
well, no, I think at least in the comics, God, I wish I remembered his name. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, so there's a character that pretty much is the chaos magic. So he is like, he's a big baddie. So they could he could be the main villain in this next saga that they're leading up to now
Yeah.
with the chaos magic, and then bring tie in the mutants with Wanda. But see, like in the comics with Wanda, she kind of strips mutant powers from mutants, and that's why they hate her. So, or Scarlet Witch, I should say. So we'll see how they go about this, because it could be a really compelling storyline, if they do it right, or they can really fudge it up if they don't.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole fear, right? Is you try to shoehorn something into this universe that just doesn't work. And That's always my fear. Like Paul was saying, I mean, you can only have so many. You can only have so many storylines before it kind of becomes a blur. Which to me at this point, it almost has. Again, when you start talking multiverses, and all this kind of stuff, I know why people enjoy it, and I know why people like you were talking about Mav, when you see something like WandaVision and it makes
Hmm.
your mind go in all these different directions and be curious about how it's going to affect the rest of the rest of the universe itself, because it's all tied in. I totally get that, but at the same time, you can have too much, right? And you can try to do you can try to do too much. The world is only so big, so how many superheroes and are you going to have in this universe, right? Before it becomes like, oh, great, another one. And I just don't want them to try to force it where they can't. And they've been careful to craft it so far. But I just don't want to get to the point where it's unwieldy for the writers, and they start to make mistakes where, I mean, people are always going to pick everything apart and try to find mistakes, but I don't want it to get to the point where we're seeing, things not make sense, or just it becomes, well, why did that happen, or why is this character here, or whatever, and it just becomes, well, because I don't want to see that happen, because
Yeah.
that's when you start to lose. That's when you start to lose it, and it becomes oversaturated, and people start not caring anymore about what you've created. So I
Right.
just don't want to see that happen.
Yeah. Well, I think with Kevin Feige, as long as he's still like involved and stuff, like they're real careful about a lot of that stuff. And even though it is going bigger and more and more and more, they're also wrapping up a lot of things they had started. Right.
Right.
So it's where there's more of a, not necessarily just adding to, and you're still going to have all these other things. It's more of a transition phase, but there is still more within that, right? Because now we have the shows on top of the movies, and there's like 4 movies coming out this year, right? So there's 4 movies coming out this year. There's like 3 or 4 shows coming out this year, I think. So the next one is Winter Soldier and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? Which I'm super excited about. There's so much to look into this stuff. We got the Hawkeye show coming out as well. And learning from what we saw with WandaVision is how much these are directly tied to the storylines. But the benefit for me of the shows, at least, is that we get more of a longer look at one event, like an experience that can help flush out each character even more. And whether you care to watch that or not, even though there are ramifications on that, I think the ramifications can be easily explained, or if you don't care so much, it can be easily they can allude to it in the movies or something. You don't
Well,
necessarily have to watch everything.
that's the other possible negative. They have to be careful of that. If they do something in the show, but they don't explain it, or you don't watch that episode, and then you go to a movie and you go, well, wait, when did that happen? They need to find a way to do that
Yeah,
fluidly and
100%.
naturally.
Because there's going to be people that have missed the show that are going to watch the next
Right.
movie and be like, why does Scarlet Witch look
Yeah.
like this now? You know what? Like why does what's going on? Who are these voices she's hearing, like of these children and stuff? So yeah, there's a lot to that, because like me, I wasn't into the comics, so I don't have a background with this stuff as much as other people do. I'm taking it all in from the MCU and from the cartoons and all that kind of stuff, right? Which we didn't get as many characters back with
Well,
that.
and one difference between seeing the movie and reading the comics is that same story you saw in a 2-hour movie, 2.5-hour movie, could have taken 2.5 years in the comic books. Seriously.
Yeah,
I mean, for them to work it all out. You know,
yeah.
per, you know,
Well, that's why I like the shows, because you have like this whole event that took place with WandaVision was such a like drawn out story where you saw the whole thing unfold, right? There wasn't like missing pieces. You saw new characters come out of it. You saw events happen to her. You saw villains appear that had a little bit of backstory. So you
'cause I was
had
just
a bunch
I
of
was just
stuff
looking at
revealed.
the I was just looking at the cinematic universe on Disney Plus. There are almost 20 movies to catch up on if you haven't seen any of them.
Yeah.
So you start to have this back catalog that is just so big that if you watch one of the new movies without seeing some of that, you're gonna go, but wait, when did that happen? You
Yeah.
know?
I think their hope is that you see one of the new movies and you're like, wow, I love this universe. I want to dive in and then at some point go and check out what happened, because you also they can have the benefit of, hey, I love
Right.
this. I need to know what happened and actually have
Right.
something
Well,
to go back and watch for that
that
as
goes
well.
both ways, though. That can work both
Yeah.
ways. That can both work for and against you.
Yeah.
You know,
I
some
always,
people.
I always, the same thing with Star Wars, like, or any of these other
No, I got
franchises that
I
are
got burned
continuing.
by episode 1. After that, it was like,
So, as far as the X-Men, I think the casting is going to be huge for that. I think whatever way they work it into this existing timeline and storyline to work them in, it's going to be interesting. Like Psychonauts, I think you alluded to the multiverse. Could be potential. I think Deadpool could have a lot to do with this as well. They're going to use that character as a way to bridge the gap.
That's
I
right.
think with WandaVision, they've already started doing this. That's why I was thinking we may get X-Men, the Mutants, sooner. And Psychonauts, what you're saying, like that Stan Lee originally wanted to potentially call them the Mutants.
Yeah, so like when Stan Lee pitched initially the X-Men uh story to his boss, he originally called it the Mutants, and his boss is like, no, people don't want that. Kids are not going to want, are not going to read this. So he pretty much told them, go back, pick a better name, and he did his thing, and pretty much like you with Xavier,
Yeah,
started with an X, and that's where we got X-Men from. So, but he originally wanted it to be called the Mutants. So that's why I was saying that this could be paying homage to Stanley, because technically these next phases of movies, we're not going to have a Stanley appearance anymore, because he's not with us. So
yeah. So Pong, what is the best thing about X-Men from that era? What would you like to see?
Yeah, from the Uncanny. It really is the individual personalities and the relationships between all of them. Um, it was such a large group of mutants that was brought together, and they came from all over. Like
Yeah,
everybody. Diversity is overused nowadays. Again, it's one of those words that has just been taken over. But anyways, for back then, it was such a diverse character of people or diverse cast of people that were brought together as mutants, right? And every one of them came from different parts of the world in some instances, and how they all formed this team. And it wasn't a perfect team, right? But at the same time, when push came to shove, they always showed up, and then all of a sudden they formed this cohesive unit that was incredible, and each one was so unique. And I think that was the best part, and that's why I have such a huge issue with the movies going back to when they were kids before they were prime, and they show them as these, and again, of course, I mean, if you're going to show a bunch of teenagers with mutant powers, of course they're going to have major issues. They're already screwed up by their hormones and everything else going on, and throw on the fact that they have all these powers. Of course, it's going to be some, crazy mess that they're going to have. But my problem being is the stories from the Uncanny, especially, were so good because they had most of them, not all of them. Some of them were still technically kind of, kids, but most of them had grown into their powers. Most of them had developed, their personalities and knew who they were at that point. And it was incredible to watch how each time, no matter what came up, they would go out together and they formed a special bond. They would have internal fighting. There was constant fighting, obviously. Again, Cyclops and Wolverine both in love with Jean Grey. I mean, that was a
yeah,
constant tension, right? But then on the other side, you had Wolverine and Colossus as this buddy cop duo that was absolutely hilarious. They were opposites in a lot of ways, but they formed this tag team that was just amazing. And then you throw in, like Nightcrawler, this kid who was self-conscious and kind of didn't have a whole lot of confidence in himself, even though he was a vital part, and how everybody kind of tried to help him through that, and how he finally learned to accept his place within the X-Men and finally feel that he was important and belonged there, right? And then you had Storm. I mean, just she came in and again, it was a crazy she just had so much presence because she had this queen kind of personality about her, but yet her and Rogue and Dazzler would go out, shopping, and they'd be just girls, whatever. They'd just be women out hanging around, and she'd let her guard down. But it just all of that stuff. There's so many stories within those comics that they can pull from. Like I said, one of my favorite, it was just within the comics, and I always forget. I think it was either a 2-part or a 3-part kind of mini series where Wolverine, Jean Grey had turned into Dark Phoenix and was just decimating everything, and Wolverine took it upon himself to go hunt her down. And it was one of the most impactful little, I can't remember if it was 2 issues or 3 issues, but it was one of the most impactful little bits that I had ever read, because it showed how he had to fight within his own self his love for Jean Grey, but knowing that he was going to have to find her and destroy her, and that whole battle. And she was, she was full Dark Phoenix. She was a lunatic. She had lost all control, and she was just destroying him, but he kept coming and coming back at her, and knew they had to finish her off, and stuff like that. That's the stuff that I miss, instead of these kids who are lost. It's a cool story how Xavier's trying to bring them all together and trying to control all these different personalities and stuff. When you see the X-Men in their prime, again, back in the day, and this is just for me, and I know it's kind of different for different sections of the country or different sections of the world where you lived in, what was popular at the time. But for me, the Avengers were like the stepchildren. Nobody read the Avengers. I mean, I pick up the Avengers every once in a while, but we all read the X-Men. X-Men was the deal, right? And I just love to see them bring them back in their prime when they are at their top forms. Still, you can have all these inner conflicts. Still, you can have all these little problems and develop stories through that. But man, when they go out and battle, they were unstoppable. I mean, they were clearly just a well-rounded group of mutants that learned how to bring all their powers together in one bunch, and that's what I miss.
I like that they all had this sense of like, hey, they don't belong either, because they had what people saw as something wrong with them, right? But instead they come together to do good, right? So X-Men for me, like I said, was the cartoon from the 90s, which I think is a lot like the Uncanny X-Men with the storylines, at least, not necessarily the drawings of the characters, right? But when I think of Wolverine and stuff, and Jubilee, Rogue, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Beast, that's what it's in my head. You know what I mean? It's just, those are the characters for me. And I think that that was the best representation on TV or movie ever of the X-Men as a group, right? As you see, like, hey, they're adults, they got this school going on, but it's for the young ones, right? They're the ones out there doing all this stuff, What characters do you guys want to see for the X-Men movie, for the mutants? Because there may be some I'm not familiar with from Uncanny X-Men.
I mean, there's a ton. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton, but it's your base. I mean, the base group is what I'd love to see. I mean, they can add a couple, but the base group of Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, Rogue, Cyclops, Jean Grey,
Nightcrawler.
and
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler, exactly. Yep, Nightcrawler. I'd love to see that base group. I mean, you can throw in Iceman if you want to. I'd love to see Dazzler or Jubilee. Kitty Pryde
I'd love to see Gambit.
Yeah, Gambit is cool. He was later.
Gambit is my number one request.
I love Gambit, but yes, I love Gambit as a character. I mean, it's amazing. I can't believe they haven't done something with him yet that's proper. But Kitty Pryde is somebody that everybody forgets about. I loved Kitty Pryde. her phase ability. I absolutely loved her all the time. So, but I think you can stick with the core base group that a lot of people do know about, and you can add others in if you want to, or have them, as side stories or whatever. But that base group is just so unstoppable and such a great group of characters already, and everything's already built. That would be perfect. That's the way I'd see it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and use the base group in the first movie, and then as the movies
Yeah.
progress, you introduce some of the
Exactly.
characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Second,
Like
I
you were
see
talking
that-
about, you were talking about Mav too, is with Disney Plus and what they've done with like WandaVision and that kind of stuff. What would be cool is if they can hit X-Men right, if they
Yeah.
can set it up properly, then you can break it off, and then you can do these side things with Disney Plus and create some TV shows that go into depth a little bit more about different characters or different scenarios that they may not be able to touch on within the movie.
I would almost rather them start with the X-Men and the Mutants on Disney Plus as a TV show, and then develop the characters and develop the story, and then release like the big movie.
Bad idea there.
So I just put up this image. So this is X-Men Adventures, which was a comic book. This is the comic book I was familiar with as a kid from X-Men, which was a spin-off of the animated series. But that's, to me, that's the X-Men, right? When I think of the X-Men, like that's them, And if there's a representation on screen of that, my childhood dreams would come true. Because the first time we saw X-Men on screen, even though I did like the original trilogy, is pretty decent, I thought, of the X-Men movies. When they came out with those like black suits and stuff, and all that, I was like, the casting was amazing. Like the casting that they did, with Halle Berry as Storm, with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I don't remember the name of the Cyclops actor, his name, but they had Cyclops. You had Patrick Stewart as Professor X, and you had was it Ian McKellen as Magneto. Just like that was impressive, that cast that they put together for those movies. But if they could nail the casting again, but then now you get the movies and the TV show right, then it's going to be incredible.
Though in the movies, I did like to
Absolutely,
go
of
back to
course.
the yellow uniforms, and they were like, no.
Yeah. The yellow spandex.
It's like, I'm not wearing that.
Yeah. But Rob Sees said the comics were awesome. The movies didn't do anything for me. Maybe that's just me. Yeah, that's what this discussion's about. Just the hopes of what we have for the future with the movies. Not necessarily, the past is what it is, because Fox has screwed up a lot of franchises with Marvel, right? I mean, Fantastic Four as well. It just, they've just not known how to do it, right? So this is a chance for one of the most popular and consequential movie experiences of the MCU over the course of movie history to get things right now with their own properties. So we'll see.
How many of us remember Ang Lee's Hulk? Oh God, that thing was awful.
I actually didn't mind that one.
Is that the Eric
I know why
Bana?
people hated it, but I thought it was.
Is that the Eric Bana?
Yeah, that was
one?
Eric Bana.
Yeah, I like that one
Yes.
too, even though it was like
Yes,
as weird,
I liked it.
because it's comic-y. It had like the comic book like flashes and stuff. But as a movie,
I like
thought that was
Banner
good.
though as Banner. It was awesome.
Yeah,
that was good.
Jennifer Connelly did a good job in that too.
And
Yes,
the whole,
she
and
did.
the whole, the whole that was he was 100% CGI, which kind of took away. From
Yeah,
it.
I actually, I liked him as the Hulk a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I like Mark Ruffalo as well, but I didn't like Edward Norton as the Hulk.
No.
That didn't make sense to me. And technically, that's the first MCU movie.
Right.
Was Edward Norton's version of the Hulk? I think.
Right.
That was before? Was that before? No, it was after Iron Man. That was the second one.
Yeah.
Because Iron Man made an appearance at the end of it, I think. Anyway,
No,
was it?
I think that was it Iron Man that made appearance?
I think so. It is either Iron Man or
yeah, he came into
at the bar.
with
Yeah. It was Iron
with
Man.
the Captain, the general was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so. It was the second one. So Iron Man was first, but
Yeah. The guy that plays what is it? The not anonymously. Oh my god, I just dropped a blank.
Mhm.
um, the villain for the Hulk, Abomination.
Abominate. Yeah.
The guy, yeah. So that character, the actor that played him, is going to be playing him in whatever they have in the MCU. So he's coming back, rephrasing that role. So
Okay. Well, he
how
did a
they're
good
gonna
job too.
rephrase it, I don't
So
know how he's going to look, but
so when I say I think my thinking of the MCU like at the end credit scene is when we realized that those movies were tied together and it was all in the same world, right? And that was kind of like, okay, they're doing something connecting all these characters finally together, and that was really cool. All right, so we had started talking about WandaVision a little bit, and I know Paul and Pong, you guys have not dived into deep into the MCU experience. You guys are still
Well, not into the WandaVision experience.
yeah. So now WandaVision did start a little rocky for a lot of people because like the TV sitcom style that it was going for. They actually explain that later on in the series about why. Now, spoiler this, guys. If you're listening on audio or on video or whatever, there's gonna be spoilers here. So if you want to know what happened in WandaVision, because we're gonna talk about the season finale here and what happened and what the possible ramifications of that is going to be, then cover your ears or check it, hit pause or you're gonna find out some stuff you may not want to know. Okay, that and Pong, I don't know if you care or not.
Don't care. We're good.
Okay, all right. So
the type of guy who reads the last page in a book before I start it. So
okay,
I don't care.
Right on. All right, so guys,
Wow.
WandaVision started with this whole sitcom thing, and each of the first episodes alluded at the end to like something weird's going on, right? And it progressed into you realizing that something weird was going on, and they kept going deeper into that. And at some point, it just became like watching an actual Marvel movie, right? Where you have return characters coming from other franchises. You have Jimmy Woo, you have Darcy from Thor. You have you have Monica Rambeau from the Captain Marvel movies. You have a lot of different appearances start to develop and come into this show. You realize that Wanda has basically created this alternate universe that she lives in to be able to bring her Vision back, who is her love of her life now that she had just lost. She brought him back, manifested him with her abilities in this hex. Okay, this hex is enveloping this entire town. Okay, everybody within it is being controlled by her mind subconsciously. She doesn't realize how bad she's affecting these people's lives. She's just creating her dream world. Within this, she also has kids that she's manifested. 2 twin boys. They grow rapidly because that she progresses them to the timeline of the age she wants them to be, but she doesn't have a lot of control over it because it's all in her subconscious. Then you have realized that, okay, there's other people on the outside trying to stop her because they want to get everybody that's in there trapped free. And then you have a bad guy that wants to do it in some bad ways. They bring back a Vision. They take his body. They put it back together, reprogram it into this emotionless, non-human version of Vision. They send him in to take her out. There's also another witch that's in there that's trying to manipulate Wanda that was attracted because of the amount of power that she's shown, and that's Agatha Harkness. And that was revealed that she was a villain. I know I'm going all over the place because there's been so much in here. Now, at the end we see Vision, the manifestation of Vision, come into contact and fight with the emotionless Vision, and he somehow brings back his memories. And then you see White Vision, I guess, called, some people call him Spectral. What did you call him, Psychonauts, from the comics?
No, that was Elk Dude, but it was Spectrovision.
Okay, Spectral Vision. Yeah, send him off into the real world again, with now that he knows who he is. So Vision is back in some form. And at the end, you see Scarlet Witch realize her powers, as which it alludes to the fact that she already knew how actual powerful she is, because she's said to the other witch that you don't have to tell me who I am. I already know. She becomes full-blown Scarlet Witch, reveals her MCU actual Scarlet Witch costume from the comics and everything, reveals that she is actually in control of her powers, and just completely dominates the other witch, consumes her power, is what it seemed like, it looked like, ends up completely destroying her, and then also sending shockwaves throughout what looked like the universe to me, with this big pulse of blast thing. And then the other witch was like, you don't know what you've just done. You don't know what you've just done. Scarlet Witch is supposed to be the destroyer of worlds, as in the prophecy and stuff that she's alluding to. And this is, from this show, we've gotten a new version of Vision. We've gotten Scarlet Witch potentially have caused huge ramifications in the entire MCU with what this event. You have a new character with Monica Rambeau's character. We don't know exactly what she's going to be called yet, because she has a lot of names in the comics. There's just so much, man.
It just seems like it's a lot of the rumors that it's going to be Photon as who she's going to take the mantle, because she was technically the first Captain Marvel,
right?
But because they already introduced Captain Marvel with who they brought in with the movie, so I think they're going to go with Photon.
Talk about Brie.
Yeah, Brie. Sorry, I'm bad with characters, actors' names.
So at the end, too, there's end credit scenes as well. So two things happened right at the end. One of them was a Skrull appears and decides to tell Monica Rambeau that somebody wants to talk to you or something up in space, right? Maybe it's Captain Marvel. I don't know exactly who. Maybe it's her mom in some weird way, potentially. I don't know what's going on, right? Because we have no clue. Then the other thing is, you see Scarlet Witch at the end, in a cabin, similar to Thanos, how Thanos was secluded, right? She had secluded herself onto a cabin where she can be peaceful, and you see her sipping tea. And then you see that that's just actually a manifestation of her, and the real Scarlet Witch is inside reading this book, which I believe you called it the Book of Darkness, Psychonauts, and absorbing all this information, and who knows doing what else. And she hears her children cry, which were also lost in the hex when she let it go, which was just insane. I mean, amazing, like how you had this progression from the first episode, which looked like Dick Van Dyke Show, to the events that culminated with that. I mean, it was one of the coolest things I've ever watched as far as like story progression in a comic book type show or movie or anything.
Oh yeah, and the book is actually called the Darkhold. So
okay, yeah. See, this is the stuff I don't know. I'm taking it all in. So
yeah.
What is the ramifications of that book? Is that like hold the secrets of all the witch lore and runes and magic and all that kind of stuff, or?
The Darkhold was actually created by Cathon, the character that I could remember earlier that I was speaking about. It's pretty much like his book, and it's nothing but chaos magic, which as we know, Scarlet Witch is the manifestation of that's what her powers are, is chaos magic. So I think that's why I'm thinking that with knowing that and kind of go back with that scene with when the cabin is actually uh, a throwback to the comic book because there was like a in the comic there was they go off to the mountains where Scarlet Witch uh, got her powers from the
Hmm.
mountain, and that's they drew from that, and that's where Cathon was um, pretty much born into the it was his gateway to Earth. So I think that and that was his little their way to kind of like throw back with the comic books and how because she didn't get in the TV show you saw she got her powers were amplified because of the Mind Stone, but
Hmm.
in the comics it was because they went up to the mountain and then they amplified her powers that way. They drew dark magic and or chaos magic and amplified her powers. But MCU, they have to do their storytelling and the way it makes sense,
Yeah.
and because then this explains how Vision was, manifested in the show. So yeah, there's like so much that was going on in the last episode. It was just like just mind blowing. Like
Yeah.
me and 3-Bit was sitting there, we're like, oh my god, because he was a big fan, and we're like, oh my god, is this are we gonna see is Wanda gonna be Scarlet Witch? And then sure enough, you know she during that fight with Agatha Harkness, she was shooting her chaos magic and was missing her, and we were like, why is she hitting the sidewalls? Now we know why she was doing that. She was uh, putting runes on within the hex, so Agatha's power was diluted, and and kind of throw back to what she did when in episode 8, where uh, Wanda went into her basement, and same thing with the runes, and she couldn't use her powers, and that's what she did. So yeah, there's so much.
Yeah. And her costume reveal for her actual costume was badass. I mean, they did a good
Yeah.
job. They did a good job with that. Like, I mean, she looks powerful, right? Just like, um, a very conflicted character, I think, where she has her own personal interests, but she's been had a lot done to her that's really wrong,
Hmm.
and she may be the most she could be the most powerful, right? And now,
Pretty much.
especially, she didn't realize her power before, but when she said, like, I don't need you to know to tell me who I am, I already know. It seems like she was already aware somehow. You know what I mean? That they haven't explained yet. Did you get that?
Yeah, yeah. They definitely uh, alluded to a lot of things within the episode. She knew to a point, but she kind of repressed it
Right.
because you know because it's chaos magic, it's dark, so you know she was trying to be good, and after you know the events of Age of Ultron, so she was like, I she turned around. She wasn't a villain anymore, and now she wanted to be good and do good things, and so I think they definitely suppressed that story to come back to it at a later point, either you know s- some maybe like a little mini series with her and how what her true magic with with the book now, and with Cathon, and you know, so they could go a lot of routes with WandaVision and how they really. I mean, they set up the MCU like they set it up so well, strategically, with setting it up for with the multiverse with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man 3. So yeah, it's the Marvel's definitely doing it right and how they're telling the story. They're if they're doing something like, oh, they missed, they're not saying something, it could be purposely done to set up at another point and bring it up in another story arc in another either TV show or movie or however they want to do it, because they're freaking geniuses right now.
Yeah. Does anything we've been saying make y'all potentially interested to actually go back and watch this show?
I planned on it anyway, but yeah.
Yeah,
Probably not. So just be honest. Again, the universe itself has. If they do X-Men right, it might draw me back in. But again, I guess I'm just burnt out on superhero stuff. I have been for quite a while. So it's just one of those things. Like, it sounds interesting, but it definitely does. It sounds interesting as I'll get out. But am I going to give up my time video gaming to go watch WandaVision? No. No.
Come on, man.
But no, it sounds cool. I mean, again, don't get me wrong, it does. Again, their stories, from the movies and stuff have gotten so much better. That was the problem with the X-Men. Like you said, they did the casting perfect and everything else on those movies. In so many ways, they did a lot of things right, but the writing itself was just not good. I mean, the stories were just not good. And it seems like, with MCU and with Feige at the helm, they've corrected a lot of that, because I've enjoyed every single one of the movies that I've seen, and I've seen a bunch of them. I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And they were all fun, and they were all really well written, and I enjoyed them. And I don't doubt WandaVision isn't the same. By the sounds of it, it's actually a little bit more complex than I was thinking it was. So
extremely complex.
Yeah. Right. And that interests me because I like Scarlet Witch as a character. I mean, she's always intrigued me. And so I don't know. Again, if they do something right, I might go back and watch it for sure. It's just not right now.
One thing I can do that a lot of people can't is, especially if I have a single player game on, is I'll have whatever I'm watching on the screen next to me, because I have two screens, and
What?
I can do both. I can
You kidding
play
me?
and watch.
I can't do that with a show where it takes me to get involved. I can do that with like sports. Like I used to Snap on the Xbox One. I have NFL
love
up while I
Snap.
was
I miss
playing
Snap.
because that worked.
Well, one thing about
I know, I miss
WandaVision,
Snap.
WandaVision, you have to pay attention.
but the episodes are
That's what I'm saying.
are only 30 minutes long, so
Yeah.
you can get through the whole season in like if you wanted to, one sitting, and just take a couple hours, and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, spoiler alerts, guys. I'm about to pop up an image.
6
So if you don't want to see anything to do with the show or anything big, then
My only other
show you
question
guys.
was, how many Destroyer of Worlds does Marvel have? Okay, 'cause every show calls
Right.
somebody
Oh my
the
God.
Destroyer of Worlds.
Well,
That's what I was thinking. How many how many characters powerful enough to destroy worlds do you need? And again, because Jean Grey as Dark Phoenix certainly could. You got Captain Marvel. You've got
And,
Scarlet Witch.
In the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they had a character that they referred to as Destroyer of Worlds too, toward the end of the last season that I watched. It's like, how many they are going to throw this title around like tissue paper?
Well, I think anybody that has that much power
Well,
could be
they're-
potentially seen as that.
But it's always we had a vision. There's a thing that says you're going to be the Destroyer of Worlds.
You have to blame the comic books for that.
Yeah.
But now with the multiverse, it's going to be amplified.
Yeah.
Because you got with the Nexus. The Nexus is pretty much the hub to all the worlds that they alluded in it's as smooth as they were. We just thought it was just like an ambient commercial, but and then doing just reading about Nexus, like I was just reading a little bit stuff about, I wasn't too involved with Scarlet Witch comic book wise, and then so I just kind of wanted to, you know, get a little backstory on her, and then the Nexus was brought up because it was the hub of the multiverse, and I'm like, those sly guys throwing it in as a commercial, but tying it and then setting up pretty much of the multiverse of madness, Doctor Strange too, because that's what pretty much that's going to be, and then I guarantee we're going to see Scarlet Witch in that, and so yeah, they did they they did little things like that like with the commercials, and so everything you have to, like, you can dissect the episodes to, and you will find a lot of little Easter eggs and things. But I do want to say is the cool thing that what I liked a lot was that they brought back the classic Scarlet Witch costume for Wanda in the TV series. And did you notice how the color scheme is Magneto's color scheme, because he is her father? So I thought that was really cool. So that right there for me is setting up X-Men Mutants.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
the other
can
thing
see
I was
why
going
you
into
thought
this. Yeah, it's a
that's why.
100 thing. That's why I said earlier, I think maybe some things that happened with WandaVision, they're already starting to go that route. They had already had this ideas ready to go. You know what I mean? Because they knew that the acquisition was happening for a while before it actually became confirmed. They would have already been hard at work at some of this stuff with the storylines. They knew that it was going to happen. So
Well,
Yeah.
just like the Bethesda Microsoft thing, it's not like that the first I heard about it was when they announced it last
right.
year. You know,
Exactly. Like it doesn't matter when it was finalized. That's just when they probably been working themselves on these stories and stuff. You know, here the characters. And by the way, was it Paul Bettany or Bethany? Is it Paul Bethany or Bettany? Bettany, I think. Vision. Yeah. Um, dude, like his two versions of Vision acting with himself. You know, like in just even like the facial expressions, dude. He was just like he's such a freaking great actor. Um, he did a great
Bettany,
job. Bettany, yeah,
Paul
Bettany.
Bettany.
Jarvis,
He
aka Vision, aka
that scene right there when they're sitting there talking about the ship Thesis, and
yeah,
talking about the rot, and and like for me it almost felt like the Wanda uh, Scarlet Witch manifestation of Vision imprinted himself onto White Vision,
yeah,
because like you saw that blue where the Mind Stone is, when he touched it,
yeah. It
it
became
turned
yellow.
yellow, and then
Then he flew off.
it was like,
I
and
am
then it
Vision.
absorbed. His eyes went to from that digital imprint to real eyes, like so he was like,
Yeah,
being,
his eyes weren't like this was after he realized who he is, I think, and
yeah,
it's
like
interesting.
he was, whatever they put, he gave his what memories they gave him, he kind of like shedded that, and that's when the eyes revealed, and then he becomes now the current would be current Vision, and he goes off, and who knows where he is right now. Is he going back to sword headquarters, or you know somewhere, who knows?
He knows
Yeah,
whatever it is. He knows something. It seems like when he left, he was on a mission,
yeah,
right?
something he was, yeah, he definitely, something clicked, and he was like, okay, I gotta take care of this, and leaves. I'm like,
Yeah, but
okay,
not
what
before
was
he
it?
said, "I am Vision." You know, like it's
Hmm.
like you're seeing. Okay, he knows. You know, they didn't. I'm glad they didn't run with this like emotionless Vision for too long, right? Like, because that would have kind of sucked, right? I really like him as a character. But maybe he'll be not as human as he was before. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but he definitely knows everything that happened at least now, and I think Yeah, and this is the. I'm gonna bring up an image again here.
Yeah, because they run through the scenes of at least the movies that he was in, Ultron and the other Avengers, and of like Endgame and the last two Avenger movies. So he definitely, those, you can see those like replays the uh, scenes in his mind. So he definitely gets his memory back. Like, oh, like then he's like, I am Vision, because that technically he is Vision's body,
Yeah,
but
without his
um
soul,
his
I guess you could say.
soul.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be the Mind Stone. Pretty much would have been his soul. But then, like to me, there was a moment when they were talking. He had this White Vision had the same facial expressions as Ultron when when original Vision and him were talking at the end of Ultron, and before he destroys them, he had like this facial expression on him that the White Vision had too. So I'm like, so are we possibly going to get, because Ultron in the comics has come back many times. So are we going to maybe get that again? I mean, Ultron's trying to come back. Who knows? Like if they're going to go that route, but you know,
yeah.
I've always said nobody stays dead in the comic books.
no, no.
So that's interesting though, because we lost a lot of people in the end game. Did you watch Endgame, Pong?
Nope.
No. That's fine. So do you know, so we lost Gamora, in Endgame, and there's a lot of speculation that she could make a return somehow. That would be interesting.
Like I said, in the comic books, they always find a
yeah.
way, dude. If they need a character to come back, they always find a way.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Paul's spot on. I mean, it has never changed.
Yeah.
Like this multiverse stuff. I mean, they create endless possibilities, and they any time, they can come up with a million different reasons to bring somebody back and how it's done, because anything's possible. Now that they're combining all these worlds, you're right, Paul.
Yeah.
But they do bring back
Doesn't matter.
Gamora in Endgame, so they brought her back from going through within the multiverse with the time traveling, and
Yeah,
they bring
I
back
mean,
Gamora at the end, and she's like, is this the guy that I'm in love with? And his
I
sister's
don't
like,
remember.
yeah, oh yeah,
I mean,
she's back, and she's like,
Oh, okay. Well, never
even
mind then.
even Tony Stark could come back. Even Tony Stark could come back. Okay, they'll find a way.
yeah, and they could go um, and bring back Captain America, and
Yeah.
go through the multiverse transdimensional device that
Yeah.
Ant-Man built, or Ant-Man's like
Yeah.
stepdad or father or whatever you want to call him, but they could bring him back, and like go back in time, de-age him, and bring him back as as modern day, as what we know as modern day Captain America. So
Yeah.
they definitely could do so much. And,
That's the image I was trying to get up on the screen.
same thing with Black Widow.
Yeah.
Black Widow might be dead in that timeline, but they can go to another multiverse and find another Black Widow and bring her back. So
Let me ask you guys a question, since you guys obviously follow this a lot more than I do anymore, but I used to. Do you think we're ever going to get a DC Marvel crossover movie?
It would be nice. I mean, they've
Think they'll
done it
ever
with
work
comic
it?
books.
Yeah. Do you think they'll ever work it out?
Disney buys DC.
No.
No.
I'm just saying.
It has been done. It
were-
would be nice to see it.
Yeah.
If they were to do anything like that, they would probably have like Josh Whedon do it, and do a collab if DC decides um to let this happen. But in the comics, I mean, it's possible
in the comics. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and
It's-
you gotta believe that both sides know how big it would be.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, you think the MCU movies have been big to do a crossover if they did like a 3 movie?
But
Oh
the,
my
the only
God.
the only thing is obnoxious is the console wars is the comic book wars.
Yeah.
Okay.
right.
I love
Man,
all
that
those
would just
movies,
be
like
funny.
regardless, DC, Marvel. The one thing I will say is like MCU would be they would, I think, have to consider the ramifications of putting characters that they have no control over into their cinematic universe, and that may prevent that from potentially
Well,
happening.
no, because in the comic books, it's always been like a 1-shot or a 2-shot, dude. It never affected the universe.
Right, it would have to be
They could do a
separate.
multiverse type deal.
Right,
Or-
it would have to be like a total.
It's just everything that Marvel puts out is tied to this now. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
it would have to either be an offshoot, or they did have Spider-Man actually in the movies when he was still technically controlled by
Yep.
Fox. Or, I mean, was it Fox or Sony?
Sony.
Sony. I mean, right?
Sony.
So,
Sorry.
I mean, it's possible. For
Well,
sure, I would love to see it. I mean, holy crap! I mean, that would be a dream come true, dude.
Right.
Justice
The-
League and the
the-
Avengers together, like.
Yep.
The way DC gets away with it is they have this line they call Elseworlds. If you look at the Elseworlds line, that's how they
Yeah.
get away with tweaking their characters.
I would
Or-
think you would need to have DC would need to allow the MCU to create the story for Marvel to agree to that, and use the characters how they want.
I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it has to be that tied in.
Well, I
they would
mean,
have-
for
they
even
would
a
have to work
standalone,
together.
yeah.
They would have to work together because
You're just saying that they would want to control it.
I
that
think
way,
MCU
right?
would want to control it more.
Control it,
Yeah.
my problem with that would be that, and it's always been the case, is the MCU seems to take itself and its characters way more seriously than DC does.
Mhm.
You know, it's a totally different writing style across the board.
Right, 100%. But that's why I think MCU wants control over it, because I think
We've seen the MCU can have fun at the same time. Look at Ant-Man, and
I just can't. I could see DC relinquishing control a little bit more to
Yeah,
Marvel
can't
or
tell.
something.
Yeah.
Paul, you look
Yeah.
better. Look better now.
I don't know. I mean,
You should see what's going on over here. Hey,
it's kind of like the you remember Street Fighter versus Tekken. It's supposed to be a thing. We got like one of them, and then never the other version, right?
yeah.
Like I think that as much as I want to see this happen, I think that neither side would want to relinquish control of their characters to the other, and I think that's what would be required for this to happen.
But if
Unless
you
you actually had, like
Collab.
If you let Josh
Collab
Whedon do
between
it,
the
if
two
you let-
sides.
yeah, if you let-
you would have to have somebody like say, okay, we can make this work. Let's have like 3 people involved. You're our DC guy, you're our Marvel guy, right? And I'm going to be in the middle, and let's us 3 figure this out together and come up with an idea, and we're going to be the executive producers or whatever of this thing. We'll pick a director together. We'll let everything, make sure that everything that is decided upon this is agreed to between us 3, right? And then the middleman is the one that'll actually make the things happen, right? Like, I think that's the way you could see this work. I would it would be a dream come true, man.
I think that's where somebody like
Oh, it'd be
Whedon would
huge.
come in. I think that's where
Right.
somebody like Whedon would come in.
You got
Because-
maybe you got Kevin Feige as the Marvel guy, and then you got, I don't know who would be the DC guy, in there, like saying we need to
Well,
make this work.
remember, Whedon's behind the whole MCU, the kickoff of that anyway. So they've already worked with him over there.
Yeah, Kevin
money.
Feige's
The
the
money
man
would be
there now,
insane.
though. So it's like,
But still, I'm saying, they have a history. already.
yeah. Wasn't Joss Whedon the one that redid
That
Justice
did,
League?
Justice
I
League.
think, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Josh Whedon. He took over for Zack Snyder and then ruined his movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's back in hot water now with accusations again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So he
I
may
don't-
not be. He may have a lot of free time on his hand, but not in the way you
I mean,
like.
yeah, you're right.
I don't think. I mean, I know he was involved with like Marvel and stuff before, but like I don't think people really see him as like the go-to guy right now because of what he did with Justice League, and has he done anything with Marvel in a while? I mean, 'cause I know that Kevin Feige's like the guy there, right? Everything has to pass through him, right?
Yeah, but Josh Whedon's just the director, so
Yeah. Just
it
so
would
he
be cool,
directed
though.
some of the movies, right?
Well, he's actually from what I understand, he's the one who got the idea together to create the MCU as a unit. So that came from him.
Is that him or Kevin Feige?
It was him.
Yeah.
yeah, Kevin Feige just have carried out the plan.
Right.
Right.
But the plan came from Whedon.
Well, so he did something right then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I think when Josh Whedon started doing like tie-ins with movies, I think that's when they kind of just like, okay, let's
Basically, he's the one who
Carry this
started
on.
what would be considered the MCU Bible at this point. What they all have to go through and go, okay, here's what you can do, here's what you can do, here's what's
Yeah.
been done. Yeah.
So yeah, Josh Whedon did Avengers.
Yeah.
And Age of Ultron. And did a few episodes of Agents of Shield.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, and everyone likes Avengers movies, so he can do it. He just didn't do it very well with
Yeah, he just got to
Justice League.
stay out of jail. He's got to stay out of prison at this point. So.
Yeah.
Be interesting. I just could see it as a huge moneymaker. It'd just be incredible.
Oh, yeah.
If they could ever
Oh,
agree
yeah.
upon it. My God. I'd even go see that.
Yeah, if they
Incredible.
put their differences aside and did it more for the fans, and that would be a really awesome collab to happen. And personally, that could also help jumpstart DC's movies in getting better.
That's what I'm saying. With DC, the position that they're in, kind of second fiddle, and obviously, not up to snuff. It'd be beneficial to them to do something like that, and maybe have their characters get more of the spotlight. Not that they necessarily need it, but I'm just saying from an MCU standpoint, that type of spotlight on them, it might put them in better light and bring about some change.
But what's sad about that is they've seen how to do it. They saw what Christopher Nolan did with Batman, and they went, "Yeah, it's all right." Even though those are some of the best movies they've ever made,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even with the Zack Snyder's the Zack Snyder cut with Justice League, the execs at DC were like, "Oh, this movie is going to be horrible." I'm like,
Right.
so they're already dissing it. The
Yeah.
execs are. So if this movie hits, like, does astonishing well with the fans, then that tells me that the DC execs have no freaking clue
Right, what they're doing.
how to run their how to do their movies. They really are lost. They have no touch, and they should step back and let somebody like a Kevin Feige take over and do DC.
I was just reading on the wiki,
Timeline.
like Kevin Feige
Right.
was the one that envisioned the MCU. So I just double checked on wiki.
I don't know.
Kevin Feige wrote that wiki.
Yeah.
Changed it. Went in there and changed it.
I mean, so
No, a lot of what we have now came from Whedon. Dude. I
yeah,
don't care what
but
the wiki says.
Joss Whedon wrote and directed the Avengers, right?
Because
And
remember, because anybody can edit a wiki. I take wiki with a grain of salt when it comes to stuff.
yeah,
Like that.
I'm so based on everything I'm reading, like Kevin Feige was the like mastermind behind it. And I think like he's been the one that's been behind the scenes the whole time. He would have been the one that would have probably hired Joss Whedon to direct the Avengers, right? So,
No, yeah, and at the end of the day, no matter what, at this point now, I mean, it's Feige's baby,
Yeah.
and he is the one who's led it this
Yeah.
far. So at the end of the day, I mean, whoever thought of it, but Feige's been the leader.
yeah, he's
for the
Feige's
majority of it. That's pushed it.
Feige's
Yeah.
credited for it, for thinking of
Yeah.
it.
Again, wiki, okay, dude. You don't.
I mean, that's what I think. I'm not trying to, I think it's,
Eden's over at Paul's
pretty
house all
well,
the time.
yeah.
and they
No,
talk
I'm
about
just
this.
saying. I know. I remember when it all went down. I remember,
Yeah.
and with anything, I don't. When I'm having a discussion about anything, and somebody uses wiki as a source, I go, well, really look at the
Well,
source.
I'm only
okay?
going back to double check because you had me
Yeah.
questioning myself. But I remember when all this stuff happened too, so I went to go back. Am I wrong about something? And I'm like,
no, but I'm
not.
older. But I'm older than you, so deal with it.
This
Listen to your elders.
this only goes
Respect your
back to
elders.
like 2010. So I think I'm old. This is
Okay.
this
We're like-
yeah. I mean,
mean,
he
that's
was
fine.
heavily involved. Joss Whedon was definitely heavily involved with a lot of these movies and stuff, and the TV show. And there's no taking away credit for him for that. I just don't think he's
I think he was involved in the
original idea.
footprint more than you think. I think he was involved in the initial.
possibly. We'll see. I just don't want the people to have the wrong information in case.
I told you it was a
do
mistake
your
having
own
Paul.
research,
Go to
and make your
Wiki.
own mind up, everybody. It was Kevin Feige. Paul's wrong. Don't listen to him. Kevin Feige's the man. But yeah, as far as like what we're gonna get from stuff going forward, as well, like it's definitely Kevin Feige there as well. So I think we're in good hands right now with MCU. WandaVision, I think, is going to be a stepping stone for a lot of these shows. We're going to see a lot of amazing different things come out of all of these shows and movies. It's just awesome. Just like we're like going into a golden age of like video games and stuff. Like the production value we're getting in these TV shows now, and stories that they're able to tell based on these like comic book characters and stuff is just like, it's just mind blowing. It's like you're watching a huge production movie. Same with the Mandalorian and
Okay,
Star
Matt.
Wars and stuff.
It's the wave of the future,
Yeah.
to be honest.
So
I mean, with all the
I'm
streaming
looking
services.
at slashfilms.com right
Okay.
now, and they're saying that Whedon was the driving force behind much of Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Marvel cinematic universe. So he was not only did he do both of the Avenger films and Marvel's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., he was also a general consultant on other Marvel projects over
Yeah.
the past several years.
Yeah, but
Paul
that
is a
doesn't mean
writer for Slash.com.
But that doesn't mean it was his idea, right?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, Kevin Feige is credited for it
Like-
being
it's like-
his idea to have this shared world experience.
But he's done with MCU. He said, I will let's see. He's done with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as he put it. So he's done. He never wants to touch or do anything with Marvel ever again. So yeah, that we probably won't ever see him directing a Marvel movie again.
Yeah, so this is what it said. It said on the first X-Men film, Donner made Feige as an associate producer due to his knowledge of the Marvel universe. Impressing Avi Arad, he was hired to work as his second in command at Marvel Studios that same year. In the mid-2000s, Feige realized that although Spider-Man and X-Men had been licensed to Sony and 20th Century Fox, Marvel still owned the rights to the core members of the Avengers and envisioned creating a shared universe, just as creators Stan Lee and Jack Kirby had done with their comic books in the early 1960s. Feige was named president of production for Marvel Studios in March 2007. Feige, then it shows a bunch of the movies and stuff that he kicked off. But yeah, I mean, he's been president of production for Marvel since 2007 in March.
What you're saying is if they had never signed away X-Men today could be what Avengers is.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Very well been.
He basically, Feige was saying that, hey, it's okay that we don't have these huger properties, right, that are licensed off. We have a lot to
Sad.
work with that we can do a lot with the comics, and I foresee this shared world, and let's do this. And then they made him president of production for Marvel Studios in 2007 before these movies all came out. So
Yeah, because X-Men would have been what Avengers is
but
today.
hiring
With
Joss
James
Whedon would have been his decision, right?
But still, it doesn't mean that. Look, he just said Josh was behind a lot of Phase 1.
Yeah, he's a lot behind a lot of the movies as a director and writer, but it wasn't. I'm not giving him credit for
But-
coming up with the idea of
I didn't
doing
say,
it.
but he was one of the. Oh, okay. He was one of the main drivers for why the idea is what it is today. Okay, there's a difference between.
How much is Joss paying you, Paul?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's just okay. He's saying that he's acting like Feige's the Stan Lee of the MCU. Stan used to take all kinds of credit for shit he didn't do. You know,
Right, I'm not saying that Joss
I
didn't
did
create
hear-
great movies. I would give Stan
Did
Lee
hear
a lot of
Mav say
credit.
that?
I mean, but you're saying that Feige, he didn't. He may have come up with the idea, but you can be an idea man, but not be able to.
Yeah, I mean, one guy can't do everything.
Right.
You know, I mean, like this, I would be sitting here by myself talking right now to myself, like I did for a while. You know what I mean? On these on podcasts. I mean, one person can't do everything. You know, and that's the same with Kevin Feige. I'm just trying to give the initial credit where it's due as far as coming up with the idea that set everything in motion. And
Well,
he is in charge, right? He is the guy that's in charge of it all.
Right. But okay, so he's in charge, so nobody else had anything to do with it credit wise. It was all him.
No, I
Because
never said that.
Because he picked Josh and he picked the people under him. It all falls back to him.
No, I didn't say that.
I mean, in that case, let's talk about Ang Lee's Incredible Hulk. Okay, that's
Yeah. I never said that. I think that.
No, but that's kind of what you're sounding like, though. And Josh wasn't that important. Anybody could have directed that shit. You know. Even did you hear what he said? Josh was one of the driving forces behind what became Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Yeah.
So even though Feige had this idea, it was Josh's writing and Josh going, okay, we need to do this. We need to do this. Let's do this here.
Yeah, I think that Josh deserves a lot of credit. 100%. He did great things. He just didn't come up with the idea.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
But without him, that idea would have may have never been fleshed out. At least not
right. He was one of the people hired to make the idea come to fruition, and he did a great job. You know, I think that all these directors, including Joss Whedon, has done a great job with Marvel. Because there's more than there's Joss Whedon. There's also there's also the Black Panther directors. There's also the Captain Marvel. There's also all these other directors, you know, that have all done a great job. And he's one of those guys, and he's a writer just like a lot of other ones. When we're talking about the creator of the Marvel cinematic universe, I just don't give him that credit.
I don't think. See, I don't view the guy with the idea as necessarily the creator either. If you're in a business, you can have an idea to do something, but it doesn't mean you create the process to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because you got James Gunn, Jon Favreau.
Yeah,
right.
And there's a lot of Joss Whedons out there.
A lot of those guys.
There's only one Kevin Feige.
But a lot of those guys came in later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like Joss Whedon wasn't the first director of the MCU movies.
Would you be, Paul? Would you be willing to accept 60-40 on this? Would you be willing to say
it's
accept
not
60,
that.
40%?
It really does sound like he's trying to lay out like he owes Feige a favor or something.
I do, because I don't think this would have happened. I love the freaking MCU. I just want to make sure that Joss Whedon isn't given full credit for the MCU because it's not.
I don't think he's given full credit. I think he's given more than you should be giving him.
He has a lot of credit. I've given a lot of credit. I think he did a great job.
Well, privately, Mavs told me that he wants to wipe Joss Whedon's name from the MCU.
Well, he wouldn't be the only one. He wouldn't be the only one. So.
Yeah, Jon
just wants to give credit to Feige.
Jon Favreau was the director of Iron Man, and Joss Whedon didn't direct or write that movie.
I know, but and Favreau's an incredible guy. But,
So, that's
but see, remember some of those first movies were early in the development of what they were going to do too.
yeah, and which Kevin Feige had greenlit
Oh Jesus!
and hired the directors for and approved everything.
Okay, whatever. I'm done.
I was actually enjoying this. This is amazing.
I just had to double check myself to make sure I wasn't wrong that it wasn't it was
You're
Kevin.
checking yourself on Wikipedia, dude.
It's right. It's right.
How do you know it's right?
Because you can even go look at the credits. You can go look at the credits.
Told him.
No, you, dude.
I remember when all this was happening. I remember. But besides the fact, both Kevin Feige and Joss Whedon are both great creators, right? Both have a lot to do with the success that the MCU has had. So I'm not trying to not credit Joss Whedon for being great. I just want to make sure that people understand he wasn't the creator of the MCU, which was what was alluded to a little while ago. So I have to fact check.
There's a difference between facilitator and creator, dude.
Yeah, he's a big time facilitator.
Or an idea man.
Yeah, Joss Whedon's a big.
I can come up with an idea for a great invention, but I may not be able to actually put it together. That's where I, bring somebody else on board who can.
100%. Yep, and that's why they need directors like Joss Whedon to make movies, and writers, and artists, and animators, and producers, and cameramen, and a lot of people are behind it.
I am a major Buffy fan, Caitlin. But that's beside the point.
So,
hey, Josh Whedon did an amazing job with Firefly. So,
Joss Whedon did a great. He didn't do a great job on Justice League, But besides
that movie was painful. But
but besides that, he's did a great job on a lot of things that I'm a huge fan of.
I think Justice League was one. He picked it up after it had already been kind of started, and had to clean up somebody else's mess. So, and I'm kind of mixed bag on the whole Snyder cut. I've heard good and bad about it. We'll see what happens.
I'm excited to watch it regardless of how good it is.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, I'm excited.
I was excited to watch Wonder Woman 1984 too. We know how that worked out. So,
hey, I loved it. It was corny, but I loved it. It was pretty corny.
All I care about is Snyder's fixing my man Superman, so good. That's what I care about.
No more CG mustache removal.
Yeah. And I just, I'm just super happy that, with the MCU, we got the guy that's been there from the beginning and he's still there today making these movies, and it's going to be awesome going forward. So shout out to my man Kevin Feige, the overlord of the MCU, the creator of all. The creator of all. Nobody deserves any credit for making any of those movies but Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige, you're my hero. I love you, man. Thank you. The Avengers wouldn't have been anything without your writing and directing skills, Kevin Feige. I'm just messing with you, Paul. But hey, this has been a fun episode. I want to make sure everybody knows where to find our awesome guest. I think you can find Paul lingering over at Joss Whedon's OnlyFans page right after this. Paul, where can everybody find you, dude?
Nowhere near you.
Amazing.
Let's see. You can find me at Twitter, Cerebral Paul 1, Twitch, Cerebral Paul, Xbox, Cerebral Paul 921, and you can find me usually on Sundays. You find me on the Flamage Experience, which took place an hour before this show, but not this week because I was here getting into a fight with Mav. So hey. And then on Wednesdays you can find me on Midweek Gaming with Stubbs and the crew. The used to be the Britcast. Now that I'm there, they're not. So, and there we are. And that's at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, and I think it's 10 o'clock their time on Wednesdays. So
I forgot to add you're a McDonald's influencer.
Oh, and I'm a McDonald's influencer. On Wednesdays, you'll see me broadcasting from outside in front of the McDonald's. They have
McDonald's.
Yeah. McDowell's. Yeah, McDowell's. I need to get a
McDowell's.
screen cap for that McDowell's. Yeah. By the way, if you haven't watched that movie yet on Amazon, don't bother. It's
Yeah.
not that good. It's
No,
no.
I watched it last night.
Yeah.
All right.
And then thank you, Caitlin, for smacking your husband around for me. Do it on camera. That extra special.
Hold on. I got something on the screen that's about to pop up here. I just have
shit.
to.
Kevin Feige is an ass. Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
Let's see here. Man, it's showing up small. Why is it so small? Hey, Pong, how's it going, dude? And where can everybody find you, dude?
Good. Hey, man, thanks for the invite today. Just to talk a little X-Men. Sorry, I can't add to the WandaVision stuff, but it was a pleasure to be here, man. Again, anytime 3-bit fails you, go ahead and give me a call, and I'll be here. So
I'm sure it'll happen again.
Except next time you can't have Paul on.
I heard he has an interview with Kevin Feige.
Do this. That's good. So anyways, you can find me Xbox Ultimate Podcast, winners of their first round game on the Halo Podcast Tournament. We killed it. Well, actually 3-bit and Mav did, but
Mav I saw that.
I know you saw it, Paul. You saw it all. You were watching behind the scenes.
Yeah,
so you can find me there Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with my brothers. Now brothers, I can say brothers because we have 2 of them here in Mav and Psychonauts. And then you can also find me on Shop Podcast. Shop Podcast Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern or 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is with PTK Blam, Centurion, Fuzzy Belvedere, and Stagorilla. And otherwise, you never know where else I'm going to show up, just like today. I'm here.
Right on, dude. And Psychonauts, where can everybody find you, man?
Well, you guys can find me on Twitter and Xbox at Psychonauts8. You can find me here every Sunday at 3 p.m. and starting next week, Fridays on Fun Speculation at 9 o'clock with the boys and the Miss Caitlin.
I just had to have the disclaimer scroll across the screen right now.
I've stopped looking at the screen like 5 minutes ago.
So just gonna let that roll through for a second. Just for everybody that's watching, I just see what this all says. Who has been the presiding or president of?
And I want to take a quick shout out to Skies of Arcadia. That will happen.
Oh yeah, hey, for Hertog Vin out there, hey, Skies of Arcadia remake. We're gonna put our love and vibes out there. Oh, does that say primary creator? I just was curious what that
I
says.
think it did say primary.
Primary. Okay, and
Probably put that in like
That's
red or
okay.
something.
That says it came from Wikipedia.
This one's if you just Google his name, that's what comes up with his picture.
From the Wikipedia link.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're familiar with it then. Have you been doing your research?
I do not use Wiki for research. When I worked at schools, I told students don't
2007
use Wiki for research.
Oh my god.
2007 the films. I'm just messing with you, Paul. This has been a super fun episode. I love talking this stuff with you guys.
It has.
I can't wait to talk more. We'll have you back on, Paul, if you actually want to ever come back on after this.
Only if you're not here.
He's
Only if
gonna-
I'm not here. Okay.
He's gonna
So-
think about it. He's gonna think
Yeah, gonna
about
think
it.
about it.
Nah,
So-
I don't care. I'll be glad to come back anytime.
Yeah, man. All love here. We can joke around with each other and have fun with this kind of stuff.
Look what Caitlin
Oh.
says. And this is the last time FunPop ever has a guest.
$26.8 billion. Wow, it's crazy. Anyway, all right, guys. It's been fun. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be here again Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern next week with lots of fun talk. Who knows what we'll be talking about? Maybe we'll be having some, Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier discussions to see what we think about what's coming there and more. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on right now out there. So
Don't forget, Mav. Next week or this coming up Friday, they're going to do behind the scenes with WandaVision. That is going to be at 9 on Friday, and then they're going to set up the following Friday will be Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
yeah, right on, dude. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, Disney's stacking this stuff, so you have no reason to unsubscribe.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
That's 100% what they're doing, and it's gonna keep going, and I freaking love it, man. If you ever have time to watch WandaVision, the first three or four episodes are kind of rough, but once you get through that, it's like, oh, wow, okay, I see what's going on here. All right. Anyway, guys, y'all have a good one. I got to do the outro. Take it easy. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
They're all.
Later.
Hey, you have a new outro. Let's work on a new outro for you.
FunPop.
Hey, guys, I'm sorry. That was the wrong outro.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Hi.
FunPop.